count to 3 and get rolling.
Good morning. This is a public meeting of the Brown County Community Foundation Advisory Review Panel convened to review the fiscal year 22 Indiana Arts Commission Arts Organization Support Grant Program applications for Region 8. I'm Jan Mills. I'm a member of the Brown County Community Foundation Board of Trustees in Nashville, Indiana. Today is April 21st, and we're meeting online and streaming live for applicants and the public to observe. There's no contact between the panel and the audience about the disposition of applicants before, during, or after the panel meeting. This meeting is being recorded and will be available upon request. At this time, I will individually invite each of the panelists and then the staff to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about them. Panelists will state their name, their occupation, where they're from in the state, and staff will state their title and role. Let's start with the panel. I will start by introducing each of you by your first name so you can share something about yourself. Elaine?
Hi, everybody, and hope you're all having a good day. My name is Alain Barker. I'm from Bloomington, and my occupation, I'm the director of the Entrepreneurship and Career Development Center at the Jacobs School of Music. I'm also involved in a number of not-for-profit organizations in Bloomington, including the Bloomington Early Music Festival.
Great, thank you. Sandy?
I'm in Terre Haute, Indiana. I'm the director of the Linda Lukey Strings Festival, which is a music education program. And I'm the president of the board of our Regional Arts Council, Arts Atlanta.
Great, thank you, Sandy. Jamie?
Hi, I'm Jamie Sweeney, and I own and operate an art gallery in Spencer, Indiana, in Owen County called Juniper Art Gallery. I'm from Bloomington. I live in Bloomington, and I owned and operated a Wandering Turtle Art Gallery for 8 years off the square in Bloomington. So I'm excited to be here and look forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you. Let's move on to the staff. Staff, please provide your name, title, and role you have today. Larry?
Yes, I'm Larry Peugeot. I am the Region 8 Arts Partner working with the Indiana Arts Commission. Thanks for being here today.
Chapin?
Yes, hi, Chapin Schneck. I'm the Contracts Operations and IT Assistant at the Arts Commission, and I'm here in a tech role.
Thank you. And Maya. I know Maya has a few words for us today.
I do. I'll start just by saying welcome all. I'm Maya Michaelson. I'm Deputy Director of Operations, and I am here in a support role just to listen to the panel deliberation and support the staff. So glad to be here. Yeah, so thank you, Jan. I want to say a few things before we start. I want to share a few words on behalf of the Indiana Arts Commission. First and foremost, I want to say a ginormous thank you to our panelists for sharing your time and expertise. You participated in specialized training because, as I will mention in a second, this has been a really different year for grant applicants and panelists. You've participated in that training to prepare for the work, which has included this year training on how to reduce implicit bias in the review process. And you've spent many hours reviewing the applications, bringing the expertise that you have to assure a high quality process. To all of you and to all of those folks out there listening in, we want to say a few words about why this year's panel process is different. If you are a longtime panel observer, you'll discover that it doesn't sound quite the same. We've been very clear from the beginning of this upcoming grant cycle in our guidelines, application, and training that our focus would be on what's important right now. And that is to responsibly support our arts organizations at this critical time. And for this grant cycle, that means supporting organizations that demonstrate they are operating and will continue to operate during the FY22 grant period. And so as a result of those changes, you may hear very little dialogue and feedback about certain applicants. That in no way reflects a lack of dedication to a thorough evaluation process. It's merely a reflection of this very unique time and the unique process that we're going through this year. So again, thank you panelists, thank you applicants, thank you folks that are listening in to this deliberation, for your time and for all that you do for the arts in Indiana. So Jan, I'm throwing it back to you. Let's get this show on the road.
All right, thank you, Maya. All right, we'll begin the panel review. This is how the process will work this year. The panel will first review the application pool for operating support, and then for merit award consideration. Each has a distinct process. For both processes, if a panelist has a conflict of interest, that panelist will be placed on hold while the application is reviewed. But this morning we have no conflicts. Let me first go over the review process for operating support. In this process, panelists will be coming to consensus. They will use a summary sheet that has the results of their individual pre-panel assessments, which were based upon organizational resiliency. The panel will come to consensus for each application to make one of the following recommendations to the Indiana Arts Commission. Yes, we recommend funding for the application as is. No, we do not recommend funding the application. Or yes, we recommend funding the application with required modifications. The required modifications will be determined by the panel. This means the IAC and partners will follow up with the applicants after the panel to collect information to ensure panelists' concerns have been addressed. Once a decision has been made for each application, the staff will record the decision. Once the review for operating support is complete, we'll move to the merit process, or if we need to, take a short break. For the merit review process, all applicants that elected to submit for merit consideration were assigned a reader, and today the panel will use the reader process to discuss the applications. Because of the competitiveness of the program, those applications whose average score ranked in the top 10 from pre-assessment will be discussed today. The reader will provide their assessment of the application based upon the evaluation criteria. Panelists, please note, there's no need to provide a recap of what was submitted since everyone has read it. Just provide your comments. After the first reader is finished, I will open the discussion for final comments. In the interest of time, we're only looking for new, additional, or opposing viewpoints. Once the application has been reviewed by the full panel, we ask the panel to update their scores in the online system. It's common for scores to change as a result of this broader discussion. Those scores will be saved automatically. Are there any questions? If not, let's begin. On screen is the list of applications that will be reviewed today. They are in alphabetical order. To begin the review for operating support, panelists, please draw your attention to your resiliency assessment summary sheet. We'll start with our review in batches where there is a consensus. And in Region 8, we have 8 groups, 8 organizations where everyone was in consensus for funding. Take a moment to look at that list, and I'm going to briefly give you their names, and I want to make sure everybody is still in consensus on these 8. Bloomington Creative Glass Center, Bloomington Playwrights Project, Brown County Art Guild, Inc., Brown County Playhouse Management, Inc., Cardinal Stage Company, Martinsville Arts Council, Inc., Midway Music Speaks, and BCT Management, Inc., the Buskirk-Chumley Theater. Does anyone have any additional comments or any second thoughts about coming to consensus on all of these 8?
Nope, they all look great to me.
All right, so we'll mark those all as funding for consideration. We are recommending these applications I've gotten thumbs up from everyone, so staff, please take note. We have consensus and we recommended those 8 for funding. All right, we'll move on. We have several here that we're going to talk about that have, we have recommendations for funding, but some with concerns. So let's take the first one, which is the Bloomington Chamber Singers. We have 2 yeses and 1 yes with consideration. So do you want to have some discussion on this? Sandy, I think maybe you had thoughts on this.
Yes. I think that my recommendation for that was more to do with, I'm looking at it now, sort of the degree to which they've done pandemic planning. And obviously there may be more exists than how they filled the format, but it looked like they said, yes, we were doing some online planning. And my thought was that with more, perhaps a written plan or more in-depth planning, they might be able to move forward better. And so that was my recommendation for them.
Any other comments? Any other considerations? Are the 3 panelists willing to recommend for funding with these modifications?
Yeah, yes, I am.
Definitely, yeah.
All right, thank you. So Bloomington Chamber Singers is recommended.
And Jan, it's Maya. I'm just going to jump in for a second. If we can, let's go ahead and state what that modification is for the record so that Larry knows that, so that Larry can make note of it. And if I'm remembering correctly, the modification would be, or the additional information requested is evidence of more in-depth pandemic planning. Sandy, am I stating that correctly?
Okay, that's correct.
Great, thank you. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, Jan. Just want to jump in.
Thank you, Maya.
So Larry, if you'd make a note of that for them, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, we'll go on to the next one, Bloomington Symphony Orchestra. We have 2 yeses and a yes with modifications. Is that Jamie, or I'm not sure, was Jamie the one who suggested a modification?
Give me a second. I'm just going to pull it up on my screen.
Okay.
And mine looks good. I'm in favor of full funding. Of funding.
Me as well.
You're in mute, Jamie.
Yes. Actually, I just looked at what I had written and I think what I wrote was an error. So I agree with funding. I made a mistake on that one.
Okay. All right, so we have consensus without any additional modifications for the Bloomington Symphony Orchestra. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct for me.
All right.
That's correct for me too.
Okay, thank you. We'll make a note of that. That's funding without modifications. All right, we'll move on. Lotus Education and Arts Foundation. This also is 2 yeses, but 1 with modifications. And I believe that was Sandy.
Okay. Let me look at that really quick. You were 1 ahead of me. Mine says yes, so that may have been an error because on mine it has yes. I think they did a great job. So yes, I do. I don't have any recommendations for
Oh,
modification.
actually, this was mine. I'm sorry, this is me. I'm just catching up with my own notes here. I was looking for their 21 budget, the financial year 21 budget, but I didn't see it. And I was wondering, I'm going to have a look in my files now to see if I can find it again. But I saw their 2020 budget, but I didn't see a 2021 budget. And so I just need to quickly go and have a look to see where that is. Just give me a second here. So I'm looking at, give me a second here. So I'm looking at a profit and loss statement for the first 4 pages, and then I'm looking at a balance sheet, and then I'm looking at a profit and loss, but I don't see a working budget for the year. And I was wondering where that might be.
Okay, so can we come to consensus that this is a yes with the addition of a budget page that you'd like to see?
Yeah. All organizations provided a comparative budget and actual for 2020 and 2021. And for some reason, this application didn't include that.
All right, so if staff will make a note of that, please. The panelists would like to see the budget page for 21.
All right, I've got that.
All right, thank you.
Otherwise, I'm definitely in favor of funding. I just needed to see.
Okay, anyone of the other panelists, Sandy or Jamie, do you have anything to add or?
No,
No.
Okay, so that one, we'd like to see the budget page, excuse me, Lotus Education Arts Foundation.
Yeah, and Jan, I'm sorry, Jan, I'm going to jump in just one
Okay,
more time.
please.
Forgive me. Just to be clear, the panelists won't see this information again. This information will go to staff. So just FYI, once the panelists are done today, you guys don't have to come back together and do another grant review. This information will actually go to staff. So just want to be clear.
Yeah.
Didn't want a panelist to think, oh my gosh, I've got, there's more work to do. You guys have done plenty. So, but this is more, you are recommending to staff
To follow.
up with this additional information. So
Okay.
just want to be clear on that.
Sounds
Right.
good. Thanks for the clarification. Yeah.
I'm going to jump
Thank
off
you.
again.
All right, we will move to Quarryland Men's Chorus. Again, 2 yeses and 1 with modification.
I'm a yes. I don't know who.
I'm a yes.
Yeah, I don't see any concerns in the comments, but I may not be seeing all the comments.
Okay, I think that was me that had a modification, and I'm trying to look back at my notes so I can make a recommendation.
There is a comment about the webpage not being operational.
Yeah, I think that I don't know if this is actually a modification or more of a suggestion. I'm rereading my notes, and I felt like they need to engage more with the community during this time. It looks like that their webpage isn't working when I went to it, and that their the social media spots that I looked at seem to be very kind of outdated. Like they're not engaging and communicating quite as much as I would expect, especially given that the only way we can really communicate right now is pretty much through social media and online. So I guess what I really wanted to see was perhaps finding ways to engage more through social media. And this is turning out to be more of a suggestion than being a modification, I think. I do believe they absolutely should be funded, and I really suggest they find ways of engaging with the social media world better. And perhaps that could just be by finding an intern who's willing to come on board and help them with that. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone from the organization themselves, but I know I've had to reach out for my business to get some help on kind of honing my skills in that regard. So that's more of a suggestion.
All right, thank you so much. So this is going to be a unanimous yes for funding, and we appreciate the comment. I'm sure they'll take your comments to heart. So, all right, we will move on. The Sculpture Trails Outdoor Museum, and again, this was there were 2 yeses and 1 yes with modification.
So I think this is an easy fix. What they checked was there was no written plan on their checklist, and that's all they checked. When you read the grant proposal or the grant application, it's clear that they have done work and they've done interesting things. There were some wonderful things that they've done that took planning, but they didn't respond to that. So I think that if they just add to that checklist, instead of just saying we didn't have a written plan, it looked like perhaps you could only choose one. And so that if they didn't have a written plan, perhaps they had just clicked didn't have a written plan. So based on that was my modification. So I think if they just indicate what things they did, which they clearly did, then that's all it would take.
All right, are there other comments from the other panelists?
Nope, I'm in favor of funding.
I'm completely in favor of funding.
All right, so we'll recommend this for funding and ask the staff to check on a written plan for the project. All right, great, thank you.
Got it.
Any plan, I mean, so.
All right, we'll move to Shawnee Theater of Greene County. This one may need a little bit more discussion. There was a yes with modifications, a yes, and a no. So let's maybe hear from all of the panelists. Who would like to begin?
I can start and just mention that my notes say that the budget projections were provided, but I didn't see the actual numbers compared to so I saw the budget, but I didn't see the actuals for either the projections or last year. So it's difficult to know if the goals were met. And for the P&L document, it seems that the organization is in really good shape, but I just didn't know. It was difficult for me to know how the organization's been able to function through the year when all I saw was the proposed budget, but I didn't see the actuals.
Okay, thank you. Jamie or Sandy?
I'm looking back at it. That I also said that what I had said with modifications. I guess my comment was that it looks like they had done planning, but that the planning did not necessarily reflect COVID. I mean, clearly they had done some things. So I'm really at this point, I'm wondering if that was a mistake, because as I'm looking at this, I'm not seeing anything. And
like they've been pretty active during the year. In the section where they talk about organization activity for survival. Yeah. There's a
here. So I guess here's this was my confusion. It looks like they've done things, but yet they say that they were suspended throughout the entire. It appeared from what they said that they had suspended operations throughout the pandemic, and so that was my question. They checked the box, or when they said, "Have you had disruption?" Then so I was confused by how they had disruption of service at the same time. Of course, I can't find it now.
Well, for me, I don't know, Sandy, are you complete, or can I interject here?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, for me, I definitely was a yes for this organization, but I'm going to say it again, even though maybe the comments aren't, I don't know if I'm allowed to, but I just feel like their online presence, once again, is stale. I think they need to keep in front of the public on social media. It's a chore, but it's so important to stay out there in front of everyone. So that's like my only, and I did present this one as a suggestion, not as a modification. So once again, I thought that their Facebook was pretty outdated, and social media in general. So just keeping up with the public so they know you're there is really important.
Okay. Yeah, so I looked at, while you were talking, I looked back, and I do see that one of the things that I had said was engaging more with the community, and I think that fits with what you were saying.
So I'm going to just jump in and say that we have seen in other panels, panelists suggest that the applicant provide sort of a social media plan or an engagement plan, some sort of evidence of that. And that does not necessarily have to be super in depth, but it sounds like, because we've got two panelists sort of speaking to that at the moment, that might be a modification that the panelists might think about.
Well,
so
yeah,
it's coming up. It's coming up other places. Yes.
Maya, I just want to say that, this is such a odd and exceptional year for arts organizations that we don't really have, especially if you're any kind of a performing artist. We don't have a whole lot of ways to just stay out there constantly in front of the public to remind them that we're here, unless we're engaging online. I mean, we can come up with projects to do, but we got to engage online.
Right, and I think that's what we're hearing from other panelists in other regions that are recommending, it's really a social media engagement plan.
And from the IAC, I think you guys can really suggest interns, because I understand, as someone who's in my 60s, to do that may not come naturally. So and it also brings young people into your fold too, if you can get them involved.
Right.
All right, so we've heard several different things. Are we at consensus that you would like to fund this organization, but we need the staff to follow up with actuals from the budget, not just the budget, but the actuals, and maybe a public presence, public media plan? Is that what I'm hearing from the panelists?
Well, I don't think we've, I think just the actuals is what the modification should be. But I think going forward with these, maybe having social media plans could be included. But since they're not included now, I don't think that's fair. Does that make sense?
Does the panel agree?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with that. I think the only major thing that needs to be updated are the actuals.
Yes.
Okay. All right, we will make that recommendation then for staff. Thank you all. All right, we are down to Stages Bloomington. This says 2 yeses and a yes with modifications.
Okay, the yes with modification was me. I thought they had a great application and I want to see them funded. I just needed some clarifying on the staff arrangements. It was unclear to me if they hired 2 to 3 positions after their the unfortunate passing of their volunteer executive director. They list themselves as all volunteer, but then speak of investing in 2 or 3 positions to ensure viability. And the expense sheet lists staffing expenses as well. And so I guess maybe, unless I misread it, was the money budgeted for leasing their space redirected towards hiring staff? I just wasn't clear on that. So I would just like to become clear on that.
Well, I can tell you that I did follow up on that exact question when I read it. I was a bit confused. They don't have full-time staff. They hire people on contract for a specific period of time to build a set or whatever it might be. So they don't consider those full-time employees. They consider those contractors.
Okay, no, that makes sense then. I was just confused by the way they stated it because they said we've invested in administrative help, and I thought, well, then do you have staff? You know, so if it's contract, then I understand that's separate. So then yes, without modifications.
All right. Other panelists have any concerns or any comments?
I'm good, thanks.
All right, we will recommend funding for stages Bloomington without modification. We will move to the final one in this section, Windfall Dancers, Inc. And this was 1 yes and 2 yeses with modifications. So we will need a little bit of discussion here.
So I can start with my suggested modification of the grant. This goes to staffing as well. And so I was just a little confused. The application indicates no volunteers and no part-time staff members or full-time staff members. So I was just wondering who does the work. And so it's just a very simple question, you know, how do we understand who does the work within the organization? Is it full-time, part-time, or volunteers?
That was exactly the exact same thing I said.
Sandy, any concerns?
I'm sure somebody's working incredibly hard in that organization to do amazing work because they are a truly fantastic organization. So it's
Oh,
not
I
a
know
question
they
of,
are.
yeah, it's not a question of funding them. It's just a question of clarification.
Yes, I want to ditto what Elaine just said. They're an outstanding organization.
Anything to add, Sandy?
No.
All right. All right, so we will recommend funding, but we'd like some staffing clarification. All right, great. Thank you. That's amazing. You've already done the first part. We're done with operating support review. We can take a quick break if everyone wants, or we can just move forward.
Let's just take a 1-minute break.
Okay.
I'll be back.
All right. Let's take 5 minutes.
Jamie, I'm wondering if you're looking at the snow.
I am absolutely looking at the snow. I have this huge window next to me and I just can't believe it. And it is snowing right now.
Unbelievable.
I have a dogwood tree out there that's just drooping and covered with snow.
It's snowing in Bloomington now?
Yeah, it's been
Yes.
snow. We've got about 3 inches on the ground here.
3. Oh, well, we're in Terre Haute. It snowed through the night, but then turned to rain. So we have about an inch, but
maybe 2 inches.
It broke a huge trunk off my beautiful redbud tree.
Yeah.
One of my children teaches preschool at the synagogue and teaches 2-year-olds, and he said, I'm not looking forward to the whole getting out the boots and coats and stuff with them and then taking them out to play. So I thought that was behind me.
Well, wait,
Maya, you're on mute, Maya.
I was at the garden store a couple of weeks ago, that weekend when it was in the, high 70s, and I had 2 flowering plants in my hand, and I'm like, I can't. And I put them back. I thought I remembered that Mother's Day, adage, and thought, I can't get sucked into that because my heart's going to get broken. So
our house is full of plants right now. We brought everything in.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see all my daffodils that I went out and cut down yesterday.
I did the same, but my perennials here.
My irises were more beautiful than any year, and but they're pretty inside now, so.
All right, it's 9:38. Should we go ahead and begin?
Sure.
All right, we are going to begin the merit award consideration. And as a reminder, this is a different process. In this process, unlike the last, panelists will provide their assessment of the application's merit award submission and update their scores based upon the discussion. And I misspoke earlier, we'll actually only be reviewing 6 organizations, those with scores over 80%. Panelists, please refer to the merit award consideration list, and we will start with the application from Windfall Dancers, and that reader is Alun.
You're on mute.
Yeah.
I will just, unfortunately, my merit award notes have completely evaporated in front of me. Let me see if I can find them. Hold on 1 second here. Don't save. Let me see if I can bring it up here. There we go. Now I can see them. Yeah, fantastic organization, doing amazing work. Upgrading of their virtual technologies enabled them to be more responsive to those people they serve. They've used surveys through the year, and creating to a new set of sort of a new model of hybrid presentation of their classes. They're using blended arts programs. They're working now with the visual arts. And they've also expanded their offerings into underserved communities in a more direct way with Crestmont Neighborhood Boys and Girls Club and so on and so forth. So altogether, it just feels like an organization doing extraordinary work in the Bloomington community, propelling their arts into underserved members of the community as well, and really being very mindful of their service to community. So I just give them kudos for what they're doing.
Great, thank you. Are there other additional or any opposing comments from Sandy or Jamie?
No opposing comments, but I thought that the fluidity of their programming from live and virtual and hybrid was really admirable, because I hope that through this pandemic, we all come out with a more hybrid presence than what we typically have. And it seems like they've taken a big step in that direction. And commend them for seeming to really increase the underserved populations and love the use of historical spaces. So.
Right.
I would just add, I'm not really adding, I'm just confirming that Windfall does a wonderful job. I think they've always done a really wonderful job of serving underserved communities. I remember when I was the director at Arrington's Enright Center, they came and gave several performances to the elderly folks that we were coming up with programming for. And I just thought they do a very good job at that. It's commendable.
All right, thank you all. So please finalize your scores and update your online comments. And let me know if you need more time.
Okay, 1 second. I just need to go into the file.
I need a minute if I'm going to update my score.
Okay.
And I would just take just a second to remind panelists that we want to sort of stick to the information that's within the application. So although many of us have great experiences with some of these organizations from the previous time, we want to speak to the present moment. So just a quick reminder to everybody to stay in the moment. Yeah.
So the updating, that's on the grant itself, switching back to the grant itself? Where are we updating?
This is the merit scoring.
Okay, but physically, where is that back on the application that we update? Yes.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Does anyone need a little more time, or are you ready to move on?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay. We'll move to the second one, which is the Lotus Education and Arts Foundation.
So that's me.
That's
me
you again.
Right? Okay, good, thanks. Well, I've written a bit here, so let me just go through them. I've got 8 points with an organization that does a lot. So they're doing a lot of research this year and constantly following their audiences through social media, and that's led them to some innovative programming, hybrid, as we were talking about, this whole idea of where is the art world going, and I think as an organization they've really lent into that. They are also recognizing that there's a disparity between those who have access to high-speed internet and those who don't. And they've been trying to think of solutions to those members of our community who don't have access to such technology. They reimagined the 2020 to 2020 festival by providing a new set of experiences for their audiences, a mix of pre-recorded content as well as live socially distanced outdoor experiences, and they engaged with children in their programming, which I thought was really interesting. They had 1,000 arts kits that they distributed mostly for free. They did a lantern project, the Luminaria project through the year, which I thought was really very inspiring and wonderful and symbolically full of hope. They took advantage of the time that they had right now to review all of their recordings with community access TV services at the Monroe County Library, and have forged a new partnership with them to utilize the strength of past performances in their offerings now. They also reached out to new organizations, well, perhaps more meaningfully to organizations that they knew about before, such as Middleway House, Jill's House, and so on and so forth. And then really just thinking about how they can connect more meaningfully to the community in a broad sense, including those who are underserved in a number of different ways. So altogether, very, very impressed with how they took advantage of this year, despite the challenges, to come out with new programming that's perhaps going to impact how they function as an organization going forward.
Excellent. Thank you, Elaine. Are there any additional comments or opposing comments, Sandy or Jamie?
No.
I just think it's wonderful. The Lotus Festival is such a visual live event that it's really wonderful how they were able to keep it alive in people's minds during this pandemic, and supporting so many area artists was just, to me, a real strength.
Yeah, I really loved the kits that they were sending out and the Luminary project.
Great comments. Thank you. So please finalize your scores and update your online comments, and we'll give you a few minutes to do that.
I'm good.
Me too.
Yep. Anyone need time? All right, we'll move on. The next organization is Stages Bloomington. And Jamie, this is you as the first reader.
Okay. So I think that they're doing a lot virtually, which is, you know, it was interesting. I ended up with performing arts mostly to review for this as a first speaker anyway. And I can see that they've really done a lot. And I think that they have rebounded from, as mentioned before, you know, the loss of their executive director, which had to be really tragic at that point because, you know, COVID had just hit too. And they've got a really ambitious 2021 season. And they've stepped into virtual live performances, and they've kind of pivoted from virtual performances into more of a live streaming performances. They're offering 5 online classes this spring, which is really exciting. I think that they also have really tried to find ways to remain viable by giving up their lease space, which had to be really, really hard to do as a performing arts organization. So, you know, I feel like that they have a good social media presence, and I just feel like they've done a lot to engage with the community during this difficult year. So I really think they deserve a merit.
All right. Thank you, Jamie. Sandy or Ellen, any comments?
I just say that go ahead, Sandy.
No, you go.
Yeah, just to say that what I love, just to echo what Jamie was saying, what I love about what they're doing this year is to recognize that change is now inherently part of what they do as an organization and how they function. And they've really embraced that in a very entrepreneurial way. And I love the Switchyard Park project as well, which creates these mini plays, engaging with the community in a number of different ways and really expanding the notion of performance through the arts for the community. And so again, it's another reason why I think that they should be highly rated with what they've done this past year.
Thank you, Sandy.
Yeah, I agree completely with what you just said. The Switchyard I thought was a genius place, not only because it allowed for people to be there in a very safe way and moving, but it's a very diverse and different population that in that area than perhaps right on the square. So I thought it was tremendous. Yeah.
All right. Thank you all. Great comments. Please finalize your scores and update your comments and let me know if you need more time. We'll give you a few minutes.
I'm done.
I'm good to go.
All right, we'll move on to Brown County Playhouse Management, and it's you again, Jamie, as the first reader.
Okay. Well, they really did a wonderful job pivoting, as I've mentioned with other organizations. They came up with this very creative approach, which some people were surprised. They're doing this 2020 COVID the musical. And I thought that was just a brave and interesting approach to take. Like, we're in the middle of this thing and do will people want to see this? And the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, yeah, I want to see this. That's, you know, so I think they're coming up with creative ways to shift and to turn the pandemic into a piece of theater art is just, I don't know. I would say it's brave, and it was great that they've done that. Unfortunately, the link in their application to their website didn't work, but I was able to access it via their Facebook page, and then that ended up coming up with a very good website. So I would just suggest people really check their links in their applications. They've also added on their webpage, which I was impressed with, was COVID response. That's like part of their webpage. Here's what we're doing. And since they're theater, I thought that was a really good thing to add to a webpage, because I think people are very hesitant to go in theater. So that was a smart thing and good information for the public to have. As far as underserved goes, I felt like they didn't really communicate about underserved populations, but in their application, but clearly if they were really strengthening their web presence, then that's reaching homes that might not have been able to go to the theater itself. So homes that actually can access the web anyway. So that was just something I thought maybe they could have clarified a little better how they're reaching underserved, but I'm not really clear on that. So I definitely think they deserve a merit award, because I know that they've had a lot to overcome even pre-pandemic. So they did a great job this past year, and it looks like they're going to do a great job in the year ahead.
All right, thank you, Jamie. Any other comments or opposing thoughts?
I would completely agree with Jamie, and the only thing I'd like to add is that as a culture anchor, as an anchor of cultural activity in the community, they recognize that investing in technology that will enable them to communicate in a virtual way has become central to how they distribute activity to the community and beyond. And they've embraced that, and that's one of the priorities that they've set in front of themselves. So I just wanted to acknowledge that as well.
Thank you. Sandy?
No, just underscore what the others have said. That was my comments as well.
All right, great, thank you. So please, again, update your scores and online comments, and we'll give you a few minutes.
I'm good to go, thanks.
I'm good to go too.
Need any more time, Sandy?
One more word.
Okay, no rush.
Okay, done.
Great, thank you. We'll move to the next one. Jamie, this is yours again, the Cardinal stage.
Okay. Well, again, theater, extremely hard hit, during the pandemic, and I think they're doing a really great job of keeping themselves out there in front of the public. Their social media presence is just incredibly impressive. They're constantly putting new things out there, which I think is really good. And I think they're coming up with ideas outside the box, and that they're going to be just stronger than ever as they move through this, and they put all this new programming into place this year. They found really creative ways to offer performing arts programming, monthly family monthly photo challenges, walkabout radio play program, and virtual and on-demand play series. And I also thought there were a couple things they've done that are really extraordinary. And they've made mention in their application that they've used this time to reflect inward to assess their diversity practices, which I think is really a good thing to do during this different time for them. It's appropriate action to take for an organization of this age and prominence in the local arts community for them to be looking at that. And also of can really considerable consideration is that they are looking at merging with two other organizations, BPP and Pegasus, to form one really strong organization. So they're really thinking of ways to be not only resilient, but to be stronger and offer the best programming possible in the performing arts. So I think they are certainly deserving of a merit award.
I agree. I love the photo family thing, just intrigued me. I don't have a lot of young family here to do that with, or I would have taken part in it. And I do think their commitment to getting a wider range in terms of diversity and inclusion during this time was admirable.
I just want to say I'm struck by how mindful they are about the need to develop an organization in two tracks. The sort of strategic management build of the organization as a resilient, robust cultural organization, and then the programming side that is part of that mix. But they've been very mindful of the fact that those are two different activities, and as an organization they've excelled because of their ability to distinguish between those two. And I just want to commend them for having shown that as prominently as they've done in their grant.
Yeah, and I might just add too that they're definitely taking the lead in, looking after the Waldron Center and wanting it to maintain in the arts community. And I think that's admirable as well, that they're really concerned about that and trying to be in discussion about that.
All right, thank you all. Those are excellent comments. Please finalize your scores and update your online comments, and we'll give you a few minutes. Just one more application to discuss.
I'm complete with my score.
Me too.
Sandy, do you need any more time?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to the last application, and that is Midway Music Speaks. And Sandy, you are the first reviewer.
Okay. So I rated this very highly. Some of the things that impressed me about this organization was its commitment to involvement in the community. Clear focus on underserved, especially the LGBTQ community. It's been my experience that there's, a lot of people say we need to reach out, so we'll look at the underserved poor and the underserved Black, but the LGBTQ has been later in coming, and I was impressed by their focus on that. There's a wide range of ways that this group has sought out feedback and ideas and taken that. And then creating the Music Industry Relief Fund was a wonderful boost for the artists who are hurting so badly in the pandemic, and I rated them very high.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just great organization doing fabulous work over the year. Really impressive.
Yeah, I would just echo that. It was great what they're doing. I'm very impressed.
All right, excellent. All right, if you'll just update your scores and your online comments. Maya, do you wish to say anything about the rest of these merit awards?
Yeah, what I want to say just briefly about merit awards overall is that we will no doubt have more worthy merit organizations eligible for merit awards than will receive them. So that this conversation is happening at panels all over the state. So just for those listening, just know that the scores and comments today will be folded into the scores and comments related to other merit award eligible organizations around the state. So we expect, we'll be announcing that at the same time that we are able to share the organizations that were funded and so forth. So anyway, just wanted to say that about merit. Yeah.
Great, thank you. All right, this concludes the Art Organization Support Region 8 Grants Panel. Applicants will be notified of the status of their grant following the June commission meeting. And if you have any questions, please contact your program manager, which is Larry Peugeot. I want to say thanks to all the applicants and the guests today. Special thanks to all the panelists, and actually a really great thanks to the Indiana Arts Commission for making this funding possible for all of our communities, because it's very important to all of us. So thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to